Pad B is crossing a major milestone. The Orbital Launch Mount has arrived. With Ship 35 doing another static fire and the launch window fast approaching, how close is Flight 9? And how about the Starship future? SpaceX is radically redesigning major parts of Starship. Meanwhile, Rocket Lab is getting closer to pulling off a move even SpaceX hasn't accomplished yet. My name is Felix, welcome to What About It. Let's dive right in. Starship updates. We're drawing ever closer to Flight 9 and there are emails to prove it. No, really, there are. We've now got confirmation from the FCC side that all necessary frequency approvals are moving forward for Flight 9. In an email posted publicly on the FCC's site, officials confirmed that teams have agreed to use two key uplink frequencies to support pre-launch checkout activities, including signal tests that span from 14 hours before launch to 10 minutes after liftoff. The message also notes that the launch window for Flight 9 officially opens on May 19th, which aligns with the latest notices to mariners and road closures that we've also seen. With the FCC suggesting a fast-track path for final authorization, it's clear things are lining up for a launch attempt as early as next week. With regards to the NOTAMs, we've also seen a new one open up between Florida and Cuba. This is likely due to the debris path from the last two flights, and SpaceX is being cautious here. Also, the current advisory over the Indian Ocean is in effect until May 22nd. Things are truly never slowing down at Starbase. Well, unless you're talking about the rollout of the absolutely gargantuan Orbital Launch Mount. It took 3 SPMTs to move this behemoth from the production site to the launch site last week, and traffic piled up behind it was at a standstill. It's one of the most important moves in a while for SpaceX, as the OLM is an absolutely critical part of the infrastructure for Pad B. We've documented the layout, the construction, and all of the specifics as to how this massive piece of hardware works, but now comes the really interesting part. Lifting the monster, and guess what? They did it. The Orbital Launch Mount, nearly 1,000 metric tons of solid steel, pipework, and all sorts of other rocket pad equipment, has been lifted and placed just above the flame trench at Pad B. SpaceX used 2 of its largest crawler cranes to pull it off. One was positioned directly in front of the trench, the other slightly offset, and together they raised the mount, rotated it over the site, and carefully lowered it into position. This marks a major milestone for Pad B, which has, over the past few weeks, seen steady progress on the flame trench, diverter installation, and a ton of other supporting systems. With the mount now in place, the site is beginning to look more and more finished. It's important to see progress here because Pad B has become a de facto template for how to build a Starship-compatible launch pad. As we've seen with Pad A, things get outdated quickly, and we're already seeing construction at the launch site in Florida mimic Starbase's Pad B. It's safe to say that Pad B is no longer strictly just a construction zone. It's on the verge of becoming a second, more advanced, fully operational launch pad. And with it, the pace of Starship testing could be about to accelerate. Huge thanks go to Mauricio and RGV Aerial Photography. How quickly can SpaceX install the quick disconnect arm and plumbing in the coming weeks? Could this pad be ready to support flight testing before the summer? That would theoretically double Starship's launch capacity out of Texas and set the stage for back-to-back missions with far less turnaround time. Well, if Pad A didn't need a complete makeover as well. I expect refurbishment work on the old pad to start this year. The much discussed initial static fire campaign of Ship 35 was nearly 2 weeks ago, and while some of the online speculation has died down a bit, it's interesting to see what SpaceX is doing with the test ship as Flight 9 gets closer and closer. There were loud noises, lots of them, and flashes of blue and green during the last static fire test, which typically don't bode well for the engines being tested. We also saw something being ejected from the flame trench during the 30-second static fire, and the test has also seemed to have been cut short. Nevertheless, SpaceX has rolled Ship 35 back to Massey's for another crack at whatever happened the first time. Remember that SpaceX has already completed a relight test of a single Raptor engine last month. Here's a short word from today's sponsor, and after that I'll show you how crazy SpaceX actually is. Spam is a constant nuisance. These pesky emails and calls just keep getting worse. And they are driven by ruthless data brokers selling our personal data to strangers. Protect your privacy if you value it with today's sponsor, Incogni. You are not alone. You share the wish of safety with almost half of all Americans. That is more than 3/4 of Americans when we look at the fear of hackers stealing financial data. I personally am one of them. Incogni is my perfect solution and reliable partner for data privacy. Working in the background, Incogni is making sure our personal data remains just what it should be: personal. Everything is fully automated and incredibly easy to use. Just sign up and grant Incogni permission to track down the data brokers. Once identified, it even handles your removal requests for you. You can finally stop being annoyed by never-ending spam calls and emails. Imagine you can enjoy that good feeling knowing that your data is now actively protected at all times. It's like having a personal security officer watching over my privacy. Join me and take control of your personal data with Incogni. Use code Felix at the link below and get 60% off an annual plan. I love this special offer, one that really makes a difference. Enjoy your personal privacy and support What About It at the same time. Yes, man, I love this. And on we go. Crazy SpaceX, remember? Monday saw the second long-duration static fire for Ship 35. A full-duration 60-second static fire that looked absolutely nominal. As of finishing this episode, we were still waiting for a confirmation from SpaceX, but if this static fire was without problems, it paves the way for Flight 9. All fingers are crossed that this Starship will perform the way SpaceX needs it to, and that the problems from Flights 7 and 8 are now in the past. Hopefully. Since Booster 14 already had its second static fire for Flight 9 on April 3rd, everything should now be ready for a partial wet dress rehearsal and then a launch. While Ship 35 has held most of the space community's attention the last few weeks, other interesting observations have been around the production site at Starbase. SpaceX is doing some radical redesigning here. First, there is Ship 36 in Mega Bay 2 still receiving final TPS work, and we've seen Ship 38's Common Dome moving out of the Star Factory. It has already completed TPS work and was moved into Mega Bay 2, where the rest of the ship is. It's getting crowded in Mega Bay 2 with Ship 36, 37 and 38 all being stored there. With Ship 35 out for its big show, it provides a bit more breathing room. But the real interesting one is this. Let me introduce you to Test Tank 17. Starship Gazer caught these shots of the next generation V3 booster aft test tank as it rolled from inside Star Factory to the Sanchez storage site. And oh boy is it next gen. It headed to Massey's late Friday night for more testing, which means we are getting ever closer to V3 Super Heavy boosters. But what's so next gen about it, Felix? Where's that radical redesign? If you look closely, you can see what appears to be metal heat tiles on the bottom of the test article. And they seem to not only be made from metal, they also seem to be actively cooled. This is something that we've seen before. Remember back in 2019? If you don't remember, take a look at this. More than 6 years have passed and now we're back at it. Why? Likely because of this. I have Starship heat tiles, but I'm not supposed to have them. If the tiles worked as intended, there'd be far fewer of them circulating in the space enthusiast world. This heat shield is more difficult than SpaceX expected, and now the engineers at work are toying with other ideas again. Fast reusability needs a shield that doesn't need much maintenance between flights. Checking thousands and replacing hundreds of tiles after each flight won't do. Ceramic tiles might not be the answer SpaceX was looking for. Did you know that NASA's X-33 Venture Star, arguably the prototype closest to what a Starship is supposed to do, had metal heat tiles? I have to say that this prototype program was amazing. Combine an aerospike engine, a single stage to orbit, and reusability into one idea, and you have Venture Star. Besides it being one badass prototype program, it had these. And that, or at least something similar, is what SpaceX is trying out on Test Tank 17's engine bay heat shield. These composite panels were tested for the X-33. Elliot made a 3D model for us to show the difference from the regular tiles. As you can see, the shape stays the same, but That's about it. They're made from metal, have these two outlets on them, possibly for a cooling system, and they have an unknown internal structure. It's unknown what kind of cooling, if at all, they will use, but it could very well be the transpirational methane cooling SpaceX spoke of several times in the past. This departure from the current heat shield couldn't be more radical if the speculation is correct. Active cooling and metals show that SpaceX likely has the same opinion of the current heat shield that we have. Not very reliable. If successful, we might see these new metal tiles or something similar on ships down the line. And it certainly isn't the only new feature we saw on Test Tank 17. It also seems to be missing the typical flat thrust pod design. The engine connectors on the outside are higher up than those in the middle. If this design makes it into a production booster, we can look forward to a round engine assembly shape protruding outward under the booster. It wouldn't only look epic, it also reduces weight. That's a huge bunch of changes and another piece of strong evidence that starships, be it the booster or the ship, aren't done with big changes in their development process yet. We've also spotted what might have been a new fuel transfer prototype piece of hardware at the production site. Notice my past tense? Interestingly enough, the object immediately went to scrapping. Bye bye. What do you think of this? The two large openings certainly do seem to resemble something you might see in a fuel transfer apparatus. Maybe phasers, turbo blasters, tractor beam emitters, what's your best guess? Considering how quickly SpaceX is disposing of this prototype, we'll probably see something better and more robust soon. Or, after all, they decide to go with tractor beams instead. Whether it was a throwaway prototype or an early testing article, the presence of what looks like transfer plumbing hints that SpaceX is working on iterating toward in-orbit refueling hardware. Seeing Ship 38 and a V3 aft section move this early suggests SpaceX is building a buffer into the vehicle pipeline. They are positioning for a steady stream of flights, and if Starship achieves even partial reuse soon, this kind of overlapping hardware flow becomes essential. With all the excitement and buzz circulating around Starbase as the anticipation for Flight 9 grows, the Cape is also steadily growing more Starship friendly. We've documented how Kennedy Space Center is essentially building a clone of Starbase's Pad B. We've now got visual confirmation from Gav Cornwell of some more tanks for the Starship tank farm arriving. Gwyn Shotwell publicly stated earlier this year that the goal is to have active test flights of Starship both from Texas and Florida by the end of this year, and infrastructure deliveries like this show that SpaceX is pushing to make that vision a reality. We'll call it Gwyn time for now. Before we get to some insanely cool news and updates from Rocket Lab, let me say that creating Y episodes is a team effort. Even if you don't know it yet, you're very much a part of this team and can help me out easily. Our channel metrics show over 4 million returning monthly viewers who have not subscribed yet. Help improve the channel and double check that you've hit the subscribe button to stay up to date with our updates. Like this video if you appreciate the content and become a Y supporter for extra content. Secure your access to up to 7 picture galleries per week, satellite, aerial and ground photos and 3D animations, chat with me and gain more insights on the topic you love. The entire team is waiting for you, you rock! Rocket Lab's Neutron might beat Starship to something Elon Musk has been teasing for years: firing cargo across the Earth and landing it hours later. It's not just a concept anymore. The US Air Force Research Laboratory just awarded Rocket Lab a mission to prove it. And it's under a new program called REGAL, short for Rocket Experimentation for Global Agile Logistics. Two teams working on this show how real the efforts are, even if it might sound bonkers. I mean, it does sound bonkers. Neutron will attempt to launch, re-enter and land with real cargo. Not to orbit, not to space, but across the planet. If it works, it won't just reshape military logistics. It could be the moment rockets become careers. Rocket Dash, anyone? I'd like my pizza re-entry baked, please. Instead of relying on cargo planes or ships, which can take days or even weeks to deliver supplies, what if you could fire a reusable rocket across the globe and land it near the battlefield or disaster zone within hours of giving the go? The mission is currently targeted for no earlier than 2026 and will include a real re-entry and recovery scenario. That means Neutron won't just launch and burn up in the atmosphere, it will be expected to return in one piece, proving that rockets can act as global couriers rather than one-way delivery systems. It literally has to do this to complete the mission. This is a major milestone for Rocket Lab as Neutron is still developing. With its first launch expected potentially as soon as later this year, the fact that the US military is already looking into contracts like this shows a growing confidence in it and in Rocket Lab's ability to deliver. Go Rocket Lab! Neutron is designed from the ground up to be reusable, with a carbon composite frame, a novel fairing that stays attached during flight and opens like a hippo's mouth. It also has the goal of flying frequently and reliably from the company's upcoming launch site in Virginia. What makes this moment even more significant is that this type of Earth-to-Earth cargo missions has until now mostly been associated with SpaceX and Starship. Elon Musk has long teased the potential for Starship to deliver cargo and personnel around the world in under an hour. But while Starship is still ironing out key technical issues, Neutron might quietly take the lead in this specific area. A successful re-entry test under Regal would mean the Pentagon now sees medium-lift rockets not just as launch vehicles, but as part of a future global logistics toolkit. Do you think Peter Beck and his Rocket Lab team can beat SpaceX to the punch? Let me know in the comments below. Rocket Lab also just cleared a critical milestone in Neutron's overall path to orbit. At Launch Complex 3 in Virginia, the team lit up the pad's massive deluge system for the first time. LC-3 has been under construction for years, and the success of this test signals that the infrastructure is finally catching up to the rocket. And it goes on. At the same time, inside Rocket Lab's advanced manufacturing facilities, Stage 1 is coming into focus. The upper portion of the first stage, including the interstage and composite fairing structures, has now passed structural testing and is nearly qualified for flight. Can you believe it? These sections are some of the most complex parts of the rocket, tying together the upper and lower stages while protecting critical avionics and separation systems. Finishing them means Neutron's frame is taking shape with increasing speed and confidence. This nose section has a lot of moving parts. It's all part of a push toward a first flight. Over the past year, Rocket Lab has been knocking down milestone after milestone. They built and tested their first full-scale carbon composite tanks. They've hot-fired the Archimedes engine and begun qualifying both stages. They erected the world's largest machine for automated fiber placement to print Neutron's structure. Man, Rocket Lab is rocking it! Now they are wiring all those systems together, stacking hardware and running hardware in the loop simulations to tighten software and guidance. For Rocket Lab, this is more than a new launch vehicle. Neutron is the key to breaking into national security payloads, reusability, and eventually crewed missions. Every weld, flame trench test, and fairing trial is a step closer to that future, and it all moved forward this week. Stratolaunch has just completed something the US hasn't seen in over half a century: a successful hypersonic flight of a reusable vehicle. Earlier this week, the company's massive carrier aircraft, Rock, took off once again over the Pacific. Suspended beneath its record-breaking wingspan was Talon A2, a sleek, rocket-powered vehicle designed to fly at hypersonic speeds and return intact. Once released, Talon A2 ignited its Ursa Major Hadley engine and accelerated past Mach 5. That's Maverick-style stuff. After completing its flight, it didn't ditch into the ocean or burn up on re-entry. Instead, it glided back through the atmosphere and landed safely at Vandenberg Space Force Base, fully recoverable just like the first time. This flight was part of the MAC-TB program, backed by the US Department of Defense and operated by Leidos. The goal is to create a reusable hypersonic testbed that's faster, more flexible, and significantly less expensive than traditional systems. Talon A2 is now 2 for 2 with 2 flights and 2 runway landings. That is a big step forward for hypersonic testing, where most vehicles are still single-use and take months to rebuild between attempts. With this, Stratolaunch is moving beyond concept demonstrations. They now have a working platform that can support rapid iteration, bringing hypersonic flight closer to routine reality and giving researchers and engineers a much faster path from test to deployment. Here's to seeing it fly again for a third time and soon. What about you? Do you want to fly again as well soon, or maybe even for the first time? What better way than in a helicopter? Check out redlineheli.com/Felix for a once-in-a-lifetime experience and $25 off flying in a helicopter above Starbase. The Redline helicopter team is waiting for you. They'll show you the same views our photographer Jordan gets on his Starbase flights. Give it a try. And here is a special shout out to our operation partners at Starbase Raptor Roost. Flight 9 is approaching and there is only one spot that is closest to the action. Raptor Roost. Go to raptor-roost.com and book your spot to watch a Starship launch in person with the greatest community there is at Starbase. That's raptor-roost.com. Book your tickets now. I am so excited for this flight. That's it for today. Before watching the bloopers, remember to smash that like button. Subscribe for more. This is what fuels the algorithm, and this is how you can help us for free. Check out our epic shirts in your favorite Space Nerd store. A new Raptor design and our brand new Mechazilla fan club design are both up. Link is in the description and in the card you should see now. Also check out our print store at shop.whataboutit.space to buy a picture for your favorite wall. A significant amount of every purchase goes directly to our photographer Jordan, and if you want to learn more about SpaceX's Raptor engine and how it is completely revolutionizing spaceflight, watch this video next to continue your journey. Thank you very much for watching, and I'll see you again in the next episode. Don't execute Starship. Dude, the OLM is so utterly huge.